The worst news for the Colts at 0-2. They're a game behind the most dysfunctional franchise in all of professional sports, the Houston Texans, who beat the Jaguars week 1 and who were giving the Browns everything they could handle before Tyrod Taylor exited at halftime with a hamstring injury. And nobody knew he had exited with a hamstring injury. I tweeted yesterday, somebody needs to point out to Jack Easterby there is an in-game injury update requirement. Eventually, they did provide the Tyrod Taylor hamstring injury update. Davis Mills came in. Here's David Culley, the coach of the Houston Texans, on the possibility of seeing Deshaun Watson on Thursday night when they host the Panthers, and also the status of Tyrod Taylor. Here's Culley.
Deshaun Watson will be deactivated this week, just like he has been for the first two ball games. As far as Tyrod goes at this point right now, it's day to day. He's getting an MRI. He's been looked at. We'll just see later on this afternoon how it is, what happens, and we'll just take it day to day with him. If he's able to go and ready to go, he'll play.
Our good friend John McClain of the Houston Chronicle has reported that Tyrod Taylor could miss 4 weeks, which means it's a pretty bad hamstring injury. It needs a month to heal, and that's the key with a hamstring. You have to give it time to heal, and even when you think it's healed, it still may not be healed, because when you hit high gear, it grabs, it sets back, and you got a problem. But, Shireen, I want to go back to what Culley said about Deshaun Watson today. Very confident, very direct, conclusive information. Yesterday, when he was asked about Deshaun Watson potentially playing on Thursday night after the loss to Cleveland, Culley said, "We'll see." And I think what he meant was, we'll see whatever who makes the decisions other than me tells me. Because he's clearly not the one making the call. Somebody else in the organization had to tell him, no, we're not going to use Deshaun Watson Thursday night, and it will be Davis Mills if Tyrod Taylor is indeed out for 4 weeks.
Yeah, Nick Caserio is calling the shots there. We all know that. And he's brought in this roster, and he's not going to play Deshaun Watson. And I go back to what John McClain has said all offseason into training camp, that Deshaun Watson has played his last snap for the Texans, and I think that's going to be the case. And it's going to be the Tyrod Taylor show when he's healthy. But you talk about a poor guy, Mike, that has had injuries affect him. We were talking about Carson Wentz. Look at Tyrod Taylor. I mean, he's in Cleveland as a starter, gets a concussion. Baker Mayfield comes in. He never gets his job back. He's in with the Chargers last year. What happens? He gets the shot for the rib injury, punctures a lung. All of a sudden, Justin Herbert comes in. He gets Wally Pipp there, ends up in Houston. Finally, he's the starter. Nobody behind him is going to push him. This is his team for this year, and now he's hurt again with the hamstring injury. Davis Mills, who knows, he didn't look great yesterday, but if he plays any sort of good if he's out 4 weeks, in those 4 weeks, he's going to get Wally pipped again, and they're going to say, let's go with the rookie and see what we have in him, because we're playing to the future. They're not going to the playoffs this season. They're playing for the future. So they may just leave Davis Mills in there, get a higher draft pick, lose more games. What do you have to lose except more games, and find out if this kid can be your quarterback of the future?
Think about it, 52 weeks after his date with Dr. Needle, that's when Tyrod Taylor ended up with another injury. At least this is one that happened without inadvertent medical intervention. And again, the statute of limitations still hasn't run. We just have fun with the whole Dr. Needle thing. We're not suggesting there was any malpractice or negligence. We know that he had a needle inserted for a pain-killing injection. It collapsed a lung, and that opened the door for Justin Herbert. With Deshaun Watson, I always try to put myself in the shoes of a fan of a given team. And if I was a fan of the Texans, I would be so pissed off that we're paying $10.5 million this year to a guy that we refuse to even put on the field. And it would be hard for me to understand, number one, he doesn't want to play for us. Number two, we don't want him to play for us. We don't want to put him on the field because if he gets injured, that impairs the trade value. And if they trade him now, unless they get players who are going to come help now, they're going to get stuff that's going to help them next year. The draft picks don't help them now. They help them next year. It would still be hard for me to accept it as a fan of the team because I'd say we got one of the best quarterbacks in football. Look how good he was last year. He's fun to watch. I want to watch him play. I don't want to watch Davis Mills on Thursday Night Football. I don't want to pay money to go watch Davis Mills play. Another one of the many backup quarterbacks in the NFL whose first names and last names are completely interchangeable. For all I know, his name really is Mills Davis. But I'd be pissed. I really would be. But this is the situation. And, Shireen, the other dynamic here that can't be overlooked, the NFL hasn't decided whether to put Deshaun Watson on paid leave because it hasn't had to. If today they would have said, you know what, he's playing Thursday night, there's a chance that we'd be talking about how the NFL put Deshaun Watson on paid leave today. So either way, I don't think he was playing on Thursday night. They don't want him to. They don't want the NFL to have to decide whether or not to put him on paid leave. It's over, it's done, and it's just a question of when they're going to trade him. And if it was ever unclear in any way, it shouldn't be now, when they have an obvious need for him and it's not even a conversation.
Yeah, no question, Mike. They're going to trade Deshaun Watson at some point. It's when they can monopolize the trade value of Deshaun Watson. It's probably not going to be until those 22 civil suits are settled or go to court or whatever needs to happen, which we all know is going to be a ways away. At this point, I think the Texans are playing for that high draft pick to use on a quarterback, Mike. That's what it appears to me. And they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. I don't think they're the worst team in the NFL. Maybe now that Davis Mills is playing, they will be. But Tyrod Taylor, with him in there, I think there was a chance they would have beaten Cleveland yesterday if he was in there quarterbacking the Texans and hadn't left that game after the first half. I mean, they looked really good against the Browns, or either the Browns looked really bad against the Texans in the first half, whatever it was. But I think they had a chance to win that game. But with Davis Mills, I would assume they're going to lose all the games that he starts, however long he's in there. And you're playing for that draft pick next year and hoping you can trade Deshaun Watson for what you want for him. I don't think they're going to get what they're asking for him, but they maybe at least can get a couple of high picks for him, and they can use those to try to rebuild this thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. And anything they do by way of contending or competing now is a plus. However, it does make it harder to get that highest possible draft pick when you are targeting rebuilding the team with potentially the first overall pick. If you win too many games, you don't get the first overall pick. That is a topic for another day. We're in the midst of football season. We'll talk about the realities of tanking maybe later in the football season, but not in week 2. For now, the Texans are very much alive, and they can make it to the playoffs, and they can make some noise, and they could really provide some excitement. And they have been better than I ever dreamed they would be.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.